We had some decent rains through the summer, and we really need to have some warm, fairly dry weather to get the crop optimally mature. And that's kind of what we got. We had a pretty good September, very dry, fairly mild and sunny. And we started seeing a lot of fields start to have cracked bolls in them by the middle of the month. And that was earlier than a lot of us expected. So then as we entered into October, we started seeing some of the earlier planted fields that may have matured a little bit earlier in September and had a harvest date application made. We started to see harvest happening so early to mid-October, and it really ramped up in mid to late October. And so now that we're in early November, we're starting to see a lot of our irrigated has been harvested across the state. And we're starting to get into some of that dryland crop. And that typically is the pattern. We typically go irrigated first, and then dryland usually is a little bit later maturing. It's later planted and usually later maturing varieties. And so we're starting to get into some of the dryland harvest now. We've seen much more of an impact, if we want to talk about what's really had a shift on the crop or impacted the crop on the start of the season. So we're really seeing the crop fruit higher up on the plant than it normally does. And so visually the crop looks good, and we've heard a lot of people comment on the look of the crop, but once you get the leaves off or once you dig down in the canopy earlier in the season, you can see how that fruit load was really elevated. And that kind of plays into the cool start of the season, so we didn't fruit as early. And so that's why I think a lot of our yield expectations this year are, I don't want to say that we're worried, but we're not certainly seeing anything that's going to break a record. Now, there's certainly some dryland cotton out there that has either had an issue with getting leaves off or maybe has yet to see a harvested application. And what we see a lot of times with cotton that may be immature and we have difficulty getting leaves to senesce naturally, when we get a cold snap or a cool spell like this, it will kind of kickstart that plant's natural processes, and it'll start that senescence process on its own. And so sometimes a cold weather event, a couple of cool nights in a row can actually help us, because it'll kind of kick the plant into gear and start that natural process when we're talking about immature cotton. So yeah, the price is beneficial this year. There's a lot of questions or talk about looking ahead to next year and what does that look like with the price like it is. So obviously it's going to be an attractive commodity to grow because the price is high, but like everything else, the input prices are high too. And so I don't think that as long as we're, $1, $1.10 in that range, I don't think we're going to chase anybody away from cotton. But I do think that it's going to cause us to potentially look at how we manage the crop and our inputs differently because our input prices are going to be so high. So we still want to capitalize on the market price, but we may have some questions on how do we manage the crop to still be profitable when our input costs now are so high as well. But things can change quickly, but that's, I think, what we're looking at right now.